The moment the challenge was laid out, it felt like the sun itself paused over the water, glaring down as if it wanted to witness what would happen next. I stood at the edge of the pool in the middle of a bright, ordinary afternoon, my heart beat loud enough to drown out the laughter and splashing around me. What my boss had just suggested wasn't just reckless or inappropriate, it was a test of power, pride, and everything I had swallowed in silence for years. I had spent most of my life being underestimated, brushed aside, treated as disposable. And now, in the clear blue daylight, with chlorine in the air and the sky wide open above us, something inside me refused to stay quiet anymore. If you believe stories about second chances, quiet strength, and kindness rising from unlikely places, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Rowan Hale, and I had never imagined that a swimming pool would become the place where my life began to change. I worked as a personal assistant at a high-end wellness resort owned by Calder Wynn, a man admired for his charm, discipline, and success. From the outside, Calder was the image of balance and control, a man who preached self-improvement and resilience under the sunlit patios of his own empire. To people like me, though, he was distant, demanding, and blind to the weight his authority carried. I took the job because I needed stability, because my younger sister depended on me, because bills do not wait for pride to catch up. Every morning, I arrived early, sunlight spilling across the marble floors, telling myself that endurance was a virtue and silence was survival. The resort itself was always alive during the day, filled with guests chasing renewal under palm trees and open skies. The pool area was the heart of it all, a wide stretch of shimmering water reflecting clouds and ambition alike. I often watched from the sidelines while managing schedules and towels, noticing how easily confidence floated for some people. Swimming, for me, had once been freedom. As a child, before life narrowed into responsibilities, water had been where I felt strongest. But adulthood had a way of burying those parts of you under expectations and fear. Calder, on the other hand, made a performance of everything, even leisure. When he swam, people watched. When he laughed, people echoed it. The challenge came during a corporate wellness event held in full daylight, the kind meant to showcase balance and playful competition. Someone joked about races, about proving discipline through physical endurance. Calder's eyes landed on me, and for reasons I still don't fully understand, he decided to turn the moment into a spectacle. He framed it as motivation, as harmless fun, but the imbalance was obvious. He had something I needed. I had nothing to lose except my dignity. When he proposed the wager, it wasn't really about swimming. It was about reminding me where I stood. What surprised everyone, including myself, was that I didn't step back. The words that followed came from a place I had kept locked away, a place shaped by long days of obedience and quiet resentment. I didn't just accept the challenge, I raised it. I wanted more than a shallow reward, more than being a story he could laugh about later. What I wanted was respect, security, and a chance to rewrite the terms that had always been set for me. The crowd sensed the shift. The way the air tightened under the sun, the way something real was about to surface. As I changed and stepped into the water, the world narrowed to sound and light. The pool was cool against my skin, the daylight sharp and honest, leaving nowhere to hide. Swimming beside Calder, I saw him differently, not as an untouchable figure, but as another human body cutting through water, relying on breath and strength like anyone else. The first strokes were even. The crowd's noise faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of movement and memory. I remembered afternoons from my childhood, racing my sister across a river, laughter echoing under the open sky. I remembered how strong I used to feel halfway through, my muscles burned, doubt creeping in like a shadow crossing the pool. Calder was powerful, trained, confident. I was tired, worn thin by years of compliance. But then something shifted. I realized that this wasn't just about winning. It was about reclaiming myself in broad daylight, in front of everyone who had ever assumed I would back down. Stroke by stroke, I leaned into that truth. The water stopped feeling like resistance and started feeling like home. When I reached the end first, the silence was louder than any cheer. Calder arrived moments later, disbelief flickering across his face before it hardened into something unreadable. The sun reflected off the water between us, exposing everything. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I simply stood there, breathing, feeling the weight of years lift just enough to let light in. People slowly clapped, not because they loved an upset, but because they had witnessed courage without theatrics. What followed wasn't immediate redemption or dramatic apology. Real change rarely is. Calder kept his word, but more importantly, he was forced to confront the way he wielded power. Over the next weeks, subtle things shifted. I was included in meetings where I had once been invisible. My opinions were asked for, not tolerated. A new position opened within the resort, one focused on community outreach and employee wellness, and it was offered to me with daylight honesty rather than backroom implication. It wasn't perfect, and Calder wasn't suddenly a saint, but respect had entered the room where fear used to sit for me. The bigger change happened inside. I stopped shrinking. I started swimming again in the mornings, under the rising sun, not to prove anything, but to remember who I was. My sister noticed it first, the way my shoulders relaxed, the way hope crept back into my voice. Daytime no longer felt like something to survive but something to inhabit. I learned that kindness does not mean submission, and second chances are not handed down, they are often earned through quiet defiance. The resort guests never knew the full story, and that was fine. Not every victory needs an audience. But sometimes, a single moment in the open light is enough to change the direction of a life. That swim became a reminder that dignity can be reclaimed, that power can be questioned without cruelty, and that courage does not always roar. Sometimes, it simply refuses to sink. Before this story ends, please take a moment to comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel. Your words help build a community where kindness and courage are shared openly. As the sun set later that day, though the story itself belonged to the brightness of noon, I realized that what mattered most was not the challenge or the reward, but the choice to ask for more when less was expected of me. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of a moment when you stood up for yourself or wished you had, please like, share, and engage with this video. Your interaction tells stories like mine that they matter, and it tells others that they are not alone.